Russia and Iran have suffered a significant blow in their different ways. They both lose prestige. Um, Russia may be working very hard to hang on to its bases on the eastern Mediterranean. Iran has certainly lost significantly. It relied on Syria as a route towards Hezbollah for its attacks on Israel. Not only has Hezbollah been significantly weakened, but those routes are now most unlikely to be used. But Iran also had prestige in the area because it had been seen to take an active part in supporting President Assad, and now it can't do that. So it is looking for a new future as well.
Alistair Burt, former Minister of State at the Foreign Office for the Middle East. Good evening to you, Alistair.
Hello, Carol.
First of all, just a reaction to some of those scenes that we were hearing a description of there from our correspondent Gareth Brown, Middle East correspondent for The Economist in Damascus. It sounds as though those scenes inside that prison were really pretty horrific.
Absolutely. I've never been inside that prison, obviously. I did once visit Abu Salem, which was the prison where Colonel Gaddafi had massacred prisoners in 1996 after an attempted attack, and lined them up inside the prison, and they were shot from above by guards. So the degree of cruelty that dictators are able to use on their own people is almost beyond any imagination. And that's what's being uncovered today. So what you're hearing from Syria and what Gareth has so appropriately described is this revulsion at what's being discovered, although people knew. The pleasure that this regime has come to an end, and the absolute joy from some people about its demise, and yet in the background the worry about what happens next, which is not unreasonable, bearing in mind the history of the region in recent decades.
Yeah, I mean, this is, as we heard there, an Islamic, an authoritarian group. It has been more or less in power in one part of the country. Do you think that Britain is right to be wary before, for example, lifting its banning of the organisation? HTS is prescribed. It means it's illegal for anyone to deal with it. Should we pause before lifting that?
Yes, I think the government's approach is perfectly sensible. Firstly, there are, through allies and others, ways in which the United Kingdom can be involved in what is happening at the moment and work with others to find out what is going on. It doesn't need a direct contact itself at the moment. But equally, as more than Gareth has observed, there are plenty of people who have watched how HTS has dissociated itself from Al-Qaeda. It has now been in effective power in Idlib province for some time. It has not reverted to type. And people are giving that a degree of credit, and that's credible observers like Rob Ford, the former US ambassador. But nonetheless, the background of Islamist rule in the region has been known all too well, and it soon has appeared to become more authoritarian. Syria could be different. It's a different society to others. There are many different communities, as we know. HTS now has been working with some. This could be the opportunity, not just for Syria, but for the region itself to demonstrate something different. But right for the UK government at the moment to be wary and to wait for some more clear evidence of how a new government is going to be acting.
When we look at the fact that Assad was backed by Russia, Assad himself and members of his family are now said to be in Russia, and Iran, how significant do you think this moment could be for the Middle East?
Oh, this is big stuff. Russia and Iran have suffered a significant blow in their different ways. They both lose prestige. Russia may be working very hard to hang on to its bases on the eastern Mediterranean. Iran has certainly lost significantly. It relied on Syria as a route towards Hezbollah for its attacks on Israel. Not only has Hezbollah been significantly weakened, but those routes are now most unlikely to be used. But Iran also had prestige in the area because it had been seen to take an active part in supporting President Assad, and now it can't do that. So it is looking for a new future as well, spurred by the events that have happened in the last year. I mean, sometime soon, someone's going to write a serious piece about how much has flowed from the atrocious attacks of October the 7th, when Hamas attacked Israel, and a whole series of probably unforeseen consequences have followed. But one of them is the weakening of Russia and Iran in the region, and that will have an impact on other regional powers and remind them more than ever that the region now will owe much more to its own opportunities. The power of Gulf Arab states, the assertion of their power in the area, will begin to mean more than those from external sources. And Western states and others will need to recalculate their relationships with the region. And of course, with Turkey, was also a significant winner from what is happening at present.
Let me just ask you, you were in government back in 2013 when Assad used chemical weapons on his own people. David Cameron wanted the US and others to respond, but was defeated in Parliament when Labour voted against such a move. Do you think that if he hadn't been thwarted at that time, if Britain had got involved, that could have spared Syria more than 10 years under Assad? It's a big question, but were we perhaps right to stay out of it? Or would it have been better if we'd got involved?
Well, I've thought about it a lot. I was working very hard with David Cameron and with William Hague to persuade colleagues that if action was not taken and Assad was able to continue his attacks on his own people, a victory for Assad, Russia and Iran, I said to colleagues, is not in the United Kingdom's interest. And if you think it is, you're wrong. Now, what I've never been able to say is what would have been the impact had Parliament and the United States taken an option of military action. It was only an option that was being looked for, not direct military action. I believe that if Assad knew that there was going to be some force against him, rather than the civilians he was killing, it might have produced something different. What we don't know is what would have happened if there had been Western intervention. What we do know is what happened because there was intervention by Russia and Iran. It was the displacement of millions of Syrians, the killing of 500,000, and what we have seen from the last 13 years. So I can't, with hand on heart, say that would all have been different. But what we do know is what happened. And the vote of August 2013 will remain an issue as to what extent that fueled both a Russia and Iran sense that they were impregnable, and that of Assad as well.
Alistair Burt, former Minister of State at the Foreign Office for the Middle East. Really good to speak to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Carol. Pleasure.